Hi everybody, and welcome to episode 127 of the IROCKNITTERS podcast. My name is Corey Eichelberger, and I go by IROCKNITTERS everywhere on the internet, and IROC is just Corey spelled backwards, and I knit in a rocker recliner. It's a beautiful day out there today. It's not nearly as hot as it has been. I have a puppy with a bone sitting at my feet, so if you hear a little gnaw, 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 it's because we really need to chew hard today. There are just some days where the chewing needs to happen and other days where he's not as interested, but he's got a little yak bone, which is made out of yak milk. They're very hard, and I think he's probably trying to lose the last of his puppy teeth, but he was whining and whining in the mudroom, and so I didn't want him whining during the podcast, so he's just going to be right there. So if you hear that, I don't think you will because it's not super loud, but he may jump up and let me know that he wants to see you. So I'll just do a little Chevy update. Chevy is 6 months old as of the 26th of July, and he is still sick. So his diarrhea came back. We sent in another Giardia. We sent away a Giardia sample on Friday, so we haven't heard back about that. His conjunctivitis doesn't seem to be gone. His urinary tract, that's better, but he has kennel cough. So he's choking and coughing, and anyway, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Puppies get it, and I can get it anywhere. And he was great all week last week, and so we thought it was all gone, right? The week before, we had done the antibiotic, and she said, come in. We took in a sample. It came back negative. We're like, we're good. He went to puppy playtime. He went to daycare. And then we woke up to diarrhea. And we were like, it's back. I just know it's back. And then because he went 2 places, and he was probably compromised, but we didn't know. We thought it was gone. Because we'd already done a test. So the poor guy, I mean, he's just been sick the whole time we've had him. He's happy. He loves everybody. He's super friendly. He loves to go for walks and runs with his dad in the morning. But he's not used to being in the house too much because we can't trust that yet. So I have him hooked to the table, and I have a blanket laying here. So I think he'll be okay. Anyway, welcome to everyone. The podcast today, you would have seen all the taco things. So I featured my Taco Tuesday cowl, hat, and sweater. That is a set. You can get all on discount as a set. So if you're really into tacos, or you know someone who is, or you need a great kind of fun gag gift for a birthday or Christmas, the tacos are really cute. They have little hearts, and then they have the tacos with the lettuce and the tomato at the top, and then it says tacos, tacos, tacos. And you can do that as bold or as kind of light and hidden as you want. So thank you all so much for loving Matt. He is a really special guy, super nice, very kind, and everybody really seemed to enjoy his sweaters and his socks and his personality. He is getting so much better at this. When we got done last week, I said, Matt, you didn't even turn red in the face. So it is, it's pretty easy to talk to an iPad. You don't have to stress too much, and he's used to talking to me about his knitting, so it's getting easier for him. But someone mentioned on the podcast that perhaps I could have other friends on who would share maybe their top 4 patterns or something. So I'm going to put the word out in both of my knitting groups to see if anybody wants to kind of join me for coming on the podcast. I don't think that will be the case, but just in case. Okay, I just had a little interruption from the husband who was upstairs doing some work that he had to get done today. And he's going to take Chevy to the dog park, which he never does because he runs or walks him first thing in the morning at about 5:30. And I usually take him to the dog park, but there's a small and frail area at the dog park. And so there's never any dogs in it. And so he will walk him first and make sure that he poops. And then he can go and just do a couple laps there and should be fine. Shouldn't be any dogs around in that. There never are any. I told him there's never anybody in that small and frail dog area. It's off to the side. And so anyway, he'll come home or he can walk on the gravel road over there if there seem to be dogs there. Okay, what am I wearing today? I'm wearing one of my Gudrun Sjoden dresses. Can you see how bright this is? I have really cute little ruffle sleeves on it. These are all I wear. I only buy them on sale. I'll put the link in the show notes to Gudrun Sjoden. She has an amazing catalog and everything is mix and match. Lots of bright colors, but she also does neutrals, blacks and whites, and sweaters that match, and pants that match, and tunics that match. And you can wear them over the dresses and under, and leggings, and the whole kit and caboodle. And it's organic, sustainable, kind of products and cotton and wash and wear. And I just always buy whatever's on sale. So I'm wearing over the top of it today my orange and feather and fan sweater. This was made out of Ultra Pima cotton, and I can just wash and wear this too. It has not really stretched out all that much. It's quite long. I've showed it before, but I just usually, somebody asks if I don't remember to share what I'm wearing for the day. Let's do the sweater of the week this week. This is my Quotidian Tee, and it is by Kerri Blumer, and that is at Kerri Knits on Instagram, Kerri. And it is a great pattern because it has tons of options for long sleeve, long body, short sleeved, V-neck, crew neck, I think. I think it even has an option for another weight of yarn, if I remember right. I bought the pattern quite a while ago, and I wanted to knit up this wild colorway in something kind of small so that it wouldn't kind of overwhelm me. But someone, well, you know who you are, commented and said, that's totally Corey. So it's just a cropped, wear it over a dress. This is another Gudrun Sjoden dress. This is in her kind of linen, super lightweight, almost see-through. I wear like leggings or biker shorts underneath, but this has kind of got some ruffles toward the bottom. It is sleeveless, and so I thought, oh, that's kind of fun to wear on top of that. The yarn for my Quotidian Tee, let me give you the rest of the information here. The yarn I used is Hedgehog Fibers Sock in the Villain colorway. I think I had 3 or 4 skeins of this. It ended up using maybe 2 skeins. Yeah. In fingering weight. I got the yarn at La Mouton Rouge Knittery down in Illinois when I was down there teaching and visiting. I'm going to read you some of the information. It came out in September of 2022, 26 stitches to 4 inches on a US 3. It'll help you create that perfect tee. There are 11 sizes ranging from 30 to 70, so that's amazing. Then you can dive into the fit options for your preferences, your silhouette, body length, and sleeves. 24 options written into the pattern, plus a few additional modification tips. The knitting itself stays simple with subtle trim. I mean, it's just a great pattern. The cost of the pattern is $9. I would highly recommend it. This is a seamless set-in sleeve top with V neckline. The body is worked bottom up in the round with the front and back knit flat above the armholes. The shoulders are joined with the 3-needle bind-off. The pattern requires increasing, decreasing, working in the round, picking up stitches, and short rows. So, awesome pattern. Really fun to wear, very lightweight, great summer top, highly recommend. What else can I tell you about it? There are only 43 projects out on Ravelry, and that really surprises me because it is a really great pattern. She wrote a really in-depth, great pattern. Maybe it's because it looks kind of fitted in the picture. It's kind of skin, kind of hugging her body, and I just made it a little bit, you know, you don't have to do the waist decreases or the silhouette for that, but highly recommend Quotidian Tee by Kerri Blumer. And then we don't have a shawl this week, but we have a scarf. So I had some beginner knitters over at my house, and they were looking for something easy to knit, and someone recommended the Gaptastic Cowl. And I was like, oh, I know we have one upstairs. I knit one for Kylie years ago, and I know it's hanging up there in her closet because she's got some of her stuff still here. And so I ran up and got it and brought it down, and this is the Gaptastic Cowl. So it is knit and seed stitch. It has several links that you can do it by. It is a free pattern. Really pretty, just easy, easy to knit. It's by Jen Geigley out of Iowa. This pattern came out in 2010, and there are 20,000 projects on Ravelry. It just blew up. It's written in 3 languages. It's because it's free. A beginner project for new knitters who want to practice knitting and purling. It's just a great introduction to kind of textured stitches. You can kind of see if you make a mistake or not. It does work up in bulky weight yarn, 3 stitches to the inch, but I've seen people do it in all weights of yarn. Fingering held double, DK worsted. It just turns out smaller. You can work your way up to Aran, bulky, whatever. And I think these big chunky cowls, you know, kind of came into being during that time. And so I went upstairs and I was like, oh yeah, perfect. It's still hanging on that hook up there because she's got some winter stuff here. Speaking of Kylie, I just went to lunch with her. I hadn't seen her in a long time. They have just been really busy. Really, they have friends getting married. They play kickball once a week. Kylie is the writer for the newsletter at the Court of Appeal. She has to write up the softball games, which means she has to go to the clerk's softball game every week, and they're just swamped, right? They've just been busy. And so she reached out, and I went to meet with her, and I left my knitting bag at Yum Bakery, which is over 25-30 minutes from my house. I met her about halfway. I got home and I went to get my bag and it wasn't there. And I had set it on the chair on the table. And I was like, shoot. So I texted Kylie. I'm like, I left my knitting because she only lives about 8 minutes from there. And I thought, oh, maybe she'll go get it. And then I said, would Stevie, her fiance, go get it? He's been delivering DoorDash for a while. And she's like, actually, text him. He's out delivering DoorDash right now while I'm gone. So he does that kind of as a side job. And so I said, will you go to the bakery, pick up my bags, and then drive them out to my house, which is a trek, but I will pay you handsomely because I need a podcast. I need what's in that bag to show on the podcast. And we have tickets to a 5:45 movie already. We pre-bought them. So I don't have time to run in there and get it and come back and podcast and go to this. We're going to go see Oppenheimer. And so he's like, sure, I'll run by there. So I just got a text from him that he picked up the bag and he's on his way to my house. And it's so worth it for me. And, you know, they can use kids, they can use the money. And I'm just like, even for me just to drive in and back plus my time, I'm like, yes, please, thank you. What a nice guy. So he said, I was just going to head home because he knew Kylie had just gone home. So I was like, yay, thank you so much for doing that for me. So anyway. So I did get that. I have a couple of finished objects this week, which doesn't always happen, but we've been doing some driving in the car and I've had some things on the needles. So the first thing I finished was my little brioche hat to match the cowl I made. So if you'll remember, I made that cowl. It is reversible and I had this yarn left over. This is some of my oldest stash, which is why I cast it on. I told you all that story at the time. That I didn't remember the colorway. It didn't have any tags. It was 2 skeins. Neither one of them weighed the same amount. I don't know where I ever got them, but I really liked the purple. It was kind of fun. So I cast on that cowl, knit a brioche cowl, and then I still had some left over. So I thought, well, I'll cast on the hat. And so I did some kind of fun decreases in brioche at the top of that hat. And so I got that done. So I don't know if that'll be a gift for someone for Christmas, that set probably, because I have a ton of hats that I knit. Yeah, just did a little easy brioche beginner Brioche for beginners hat is, I just needed a number to cast on. With Brioche, it's different than what you would cast on sometimes for a different hat. So I just needed a number to cast on. So I used a free pattern. And then I redid the owl's hat, you guys. You know, the one that I got the giggles over because I held it up and I had crossed all the cables the wrong direction. So yeah, it turned out really cute, I think. And I put little beads in the eyes. So this class I teach, Knit an Owl Cowl, where you can learn how to cable, or if you know how to cable, you can learn how to cable without a cable needle. So I'm teaching that at Yarnover in September as one of the classes. I'm also teaching my Fixing Mistakes class. So I had a cowl, but it was kind of variegated and I didn't think it showed up very well. So I just wanted something that really popped, and I thought this kind of suited me. So I knit the cowl, and then I thought, well, there will be some people that would prefer to knit the hat with fewer owls in class instead of the cowl, which can be made longer or, you know, a little bit shorter, because they will get around faster and then they won't feel that pressure. So I've only ever used the cowl in class, but I think I'll add the hat as an option because I did the same number of stitches at rows at the bottom, and then you could finish it faster. So I think this has like 8 owls and the cowl has like 11. So, you know, you could just get around faster in the 3-hour class. So yeah, I got it done. Remember, I held it up and I was worried about running out of yarn. Oh, and I have the best pom-pom. Well, I had to get up and grab it because I forgot it. But look at that. Won't that be cute on there? Of course, I bought that pom-pom when I saw it a while back. I don't have it on there yet, but I think I got this one at Be Woolen here in the cities. So once I get that on there, I think that'll be really cute. And I will put it on with a button, which I've talked about before. You stick it through and then put a button on the inside, and that will hold it taut and it won't flap around. So yeah, got a couple of things done this week. Just driving in the car, finishing some things up. So I taught a class at Harriet and Alice this week. I taught my Fixing Mistakes class, and it went well. I'd never taught in their new upstairs space. That's in Edina, for those of you that live in the Minnesota area. A lovely little shop, a little hard to get to because they built an apartment building in the parking lot behind these shops. So you have to know to go underneath the apartment building to park, or park across the street and then walk down an alley to get there. But it's a lovely little shop in kind of a upper class neighborhood. So they have tons of beautiful yarns, and they carry Spin Cycle. So they carry a ton of Spin Cycle, and I have wanted this yarn since I saw it. Can you imagine why? Orange and raspberry. And this is a shop colorway. It was dyed just for the shop, and it's called Hot Dish, because in Minnesota, we don't make a casserole, we make a hot dish. Kind of one word, hot dish. That's how we say it. Can you bring a hot dish? And so I just think that's super cute. So I'm going to make the Alpine Bloom sweater that just came out by Caitlin Hunter, using this at the yoke. I saw someone that had used this and I really liked it. I have kind of a reddish purple color, and I have a teal, no, it's more green. It's more green blue. So I'm gonna set this out and see which one I like. I can't cast it on right now. So I bought the yarn, and I got home and I bought the wrong weight. So not only did I leave my knitting bag behind, I think I'm just distracted, but I also just had the wrong weight of yarn. Oh, I have someone dropping something off here. I thought it was Stevie coming. So I got it home and it was worsted weight, and I needed to buy fingering, and I knew that. And I knew that they had multiple weights. So then 2 days later, I texted a friend and said, hey, I'm driving right by your house. I'm going to get this. Well, it's going to be a little bit of interruptions. That was a beginner knitter dropping off a knitting needle she had borrowed and a book. But anyway, so I bought this Hot Dish yarn. So don't tell my checkbook, but I went up to the cash register and I had $24 in credit, which is awesome. So we drove back over there on Friday, and I purchased some more DK weight yarn in orange to make I have some leftover Emma's yarn in yellow that has some orange flecks in it, and I want to make another Atta Girl short sweater. and I was trying to decide what to go with it, and I just decided that I would like the orange and yellow to be held together for that. You'll see it when it starts coming in. So then I ended up spending more. So I have a rule when I teach, no buying yarn. So I broke the rule. Then I bought the wrong yarn. I had to run over. My friend went with me, and I bought more yarn. But I also picked up some stitch markers for my friend Mary, who needed them, and I said I would just grab those for her. So I did that. I guess I've just been a little scatterbrained. All right, we have some questions of the week this week. Can you talk about sweater making with set-in sleeve versus raglan versus all other shoulders? Does one fit better than another? How do you make the sleeve fit in the shoulder? So many questions I have about this subject. I would like to make a sweater for my son with set-in sleeve. Do you have one you would recommend? Kathy B. I sent Kathy a link to an entire article about sleeves, and I will put that in the show notes because it's a great article. It has every type of sleeve, why you would wear it, what you would wear for it. The best kind of sweater sleeve, in my opinion, is a set-in sleeve where you get literally something like this, where you get a seam around, up and around. It fits you at the shoulder. It has a seam. It will stay in there, or you're actually creating something that looks like a seam. You can seam it in. This one happens to not be seamed in, but that can work the best, and I think looks the best on most. Okay, that was Stevie. I got my bags back. I thought this bag was in this bag, but apparently I hadn't shoved it back in there. So my knitting is back. My sample sweater is back. The sweater I'm working on is back. Whew, you know how you just thank heavens. Let's go back to sleeves. So I do really think that this is a harder way to knit a sleeve. Not that it's more challenging, but you have to pay closer attention to where you're either doing increases or decreases on a set-in sleeve. I have a number of sweaters that have set-in sleeves, and I do think that it just requires more attention to get that better fit. And what you like. I think most of you know me well enough by now that if you like it, knit it. If you like it on you, if somebody else wouldn't knit that same thing and put it on you, like, if you like mixing your prints, you do you. So if you like a raglan, it's easy. You can knit those over and over again. I do think that that article is the best, is the best, but it has just tons of really good information in it. And I sent that to Kathy, or linked it in her message right away. So I will put that in the show notes, and you can find the show notes down below the podcast every week, but the links aren't there because I haven't figured out how to link it. And sometimes I'm just like, I can't do anything else for this podcast. It already takes me an entire day to edit, add in all my stuff, upload, do the show notes, put them on Ravelry, put them down below. So on Ravelry, there are links because that's easy. All right. In my group. Here's a question from someone else, anonymous. Do you have a project picked out that is on your bucket list? For example, I've always wanted to knit or crochet the... Yes, it is called the 7 Vestal Virgins by Kay Facet. I will put a picture in. I don't know if I want to knit it anymore, but back in the day, that was my dream sweater. I just think it's incredible. And if I can make it into a smaller garment, it's kind of oversized. It's kind of that 80s, 90s look. If I can make it into a vest, it's got these women standing and they're wearing all different long dresses, and they have big hats. And I just have the dream to knit that at some point in time, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I can't think of another project. I mean, mostly if I want to knit it, I knit it. Can you name a technique or skill that you would like to learn? Will you share why it appeals, intrigues, and excites you, as well as share an example of it? This could relate to anything, not just fiber. The technique or skill that I would still like to learn is crochet. I'm not great at crochet. Amber has taught me twice. I've made you know, a few little blanket things, practicing the stitch. I do like to do it. I took a crochet for knitting class years ago so I can crochet an edge around something. But my tension's not great because I don't practice it, because I don't have time to do it. But I would like to be more, you know, fluent at it. I would like to take another class in crochet and maybe make something. I mean, I do think knitting is far more wearable. They are coming out with newer and newer techniques and things for crochet to like make sweaters and socks and things. But just to know how to pick up a crochet and make a granny square, pick up and make a blanket, because I have a granny stripe blanket on the needles. I think that would be something that I would still like to learn. Otherwise I don't think that there is anything, like I know intarsia and brioche and color work. Yeah, so I think crochet. Okay, my question this week is an opinion question. What would be a little weight of yarn to make a first cardigan out of? I have never knitted a sweater or cardigan at all, and also live in the South where the weather goes from extreme heat to cold. I found a pattern that uses fingering weight yarn and a main color and has about 6 different small color bands. I have heard that a first sweater out of superwash may grow, and it may not be the best choice for a first time sweater. So this is from Polly, and I answered Polly in the questions thread, and I gave him a list of sweaters to start with. So if you're looking for a beginner sweater list, and he was specifically looking for a cardigan, I would start with Tin Can Knits. They have the best written patterns for the most number of sizes for different weights of yarn. They have pullovers and cardigans. But I wouldn't start with fingering weight. That's just way too much knitting. So if you can get away with sport weight in the South, at least it's not quite as much knitting. And I recommended Brown Sheep Sport because it's quite inexpensive, and they have 100 colorways. Like they'll have 6 blues, 6 yellows, 6 oranges, right? 6 grays. Their site is a little weird to navigate because you have to do the drop down for the color family, and then the colors of that, all the blues will come up. So it's a little weird. You just have to play around with the little drop down boxes for the weight of yarn and then the color family you want. But it's a woolly wool, so it will breathe. Superwash yarn, not only can it grow, but you just knit it at a tighter gauge. But if you're doing a sock yarn, it's going to have nylon in it. So it could be an 80-20, a 75-25. It could be a 90-10, meaning you'll have wool to nylon, and that's polyester, right? And polyester is hot. So that's why we don't knit acrylic sweaters as much, because you put those on and they don't breathe. So if you can handle knitting like a sport weight woolly wool, you will have better breathability, even though it's a wool. And so that's what I recommended to Polly, is that he try knitting with sport weight, not fingering. If he has fingering in his stash that he wants to use, he can hold it double for sure. And I just recommend that you knit it at a little bit tighter gauge if you're afraid that it's going to grow. But when you knit your swatch and you wet it and you lay it out to dry, you'll see how much it's going to grow. And then you can see your gauge, base your gauge on how much it grows after you block it. So that's my answer to that. What you knitting, Corey? Well, let me tell you, because I took this with me today to show Kylie what I was working on, and I had it in the car earlier. So I'm almost done with my yoke on my Miss Arena. And I think you'll all be able to see this. So here are my flowers. This is Spin Cycle. And this is another thing I purchased when I went to Harriet and Alice. So you see how you're getting this really pretty color changing yarn going down to the flowers? Well, my color changed to black and white down here. And it was just too drastic. So I bought a different skein of Spin Cycle that had a bunch of green in it, because I just thought the flowers, these are flowers that should go to green leaves. And then I just swapped it out right here So if you look close, I went to something that had this kind of orangey with a brown, and then darker brown with the orange, and then the brown turned to green on green. And I think that will be much better. So I am knitting with this green color, and I think I have like 4 rows left, and then it becomes solid with some texture. And I'm knitting this with Farmer's Daughter Rambouillet, and it is the spongiest yarn I've ever knit with. It's just lovely. Look at that. Oh my goodness. So I will split for the sleeves later tonight maybe, and then be able to do the body and the round, which will be lovely. And then I have 2 great nephews, one born in July, one going to be born in September. I had this yarn, and I knew I had it, and I knew that I wanted to make this, and I didn't get it made for the first baby, but they got a little purple cardigan so far. But I decided to make those little pants. They're called Blue, and they look like blue jeans. Here's the picture. Are they not darling? Here's a better picture here. This is a free pattern from Knitty. Aren't they cute? And then you embroider on the top with a little orange and you make a pocket. So you knit them out of denim yarn or cotton. I just got blue cotton yarn, and I started them. So you make the little cuff at the bottom, and then you knit the leg, and then you're gonna turn it like this and then seam it up. So I'm making the 6 to 12 month size, and I was knitting on that in church today. I thought we sit in the back because my husband's an introvert. So I knit. We have a praise band. We sing a lot. They sing a lot. And so I was just sitting back there knitting away with my little stockinette in my lap. The Lord doesn't mind. Right? We have a very liberal church, so I don't think anybody would be bothered by that. Peek behind the curtain, what I'm designing. I have a couple things coming out this fall. So I have the blanket set coming out. Some of you have asked about that. That will come out toward the end of August. And then I have my sweater coming out, the Pretty Boxes sweater. And then I have the hood, the Great Bear hood coming out. And those are all pretty much done. But I got a pattern picked up by Miss Babs Yarn. And the pattern is a set of fingerless mitts that will be either wrist length or gauntlet length. They'll go all the way up. And they are called the Pinky Swear mitts. And the little stitch pattern that's on it is called a bow knot. But to me, it looks like 2 little crossed over things. So I thought, oh, I'm going to name it the Pinky Swear mitts. I got a brand new base that's coming out from Miss Babs, and they asked me if I could use it. It's a sport weight yarn. It's going to be called Laurel Falls. It's 100% superwash Shiniko merino wool, and Shiniko is ethically raised and minimally processed here in the U.S. So I looked up the website of the people who are making this Shiniko merino wool, and it says, we reach beyond the highest standards in wool production, delivering a fully traceable product that gives back to the earth and its ecosystems, supporting the use of wool from American land through American manufacturing. So I think several companies are picking up this new Shiniko wool, which will be something that you probably haven't seen before. I had not seen it yet. And so I just thought I would tell you about it. So it's quite pretty. It has, I don't feel comfortable showing you the colors because the yarn hasn't come out yet. But I did get a pretty lavender and kind of a pretty coral peach. But I was writing up the pattern. It's getting ready to go to test knitters. So if someone wants to test knit fingerless mitts, email me. And but I have 60 testers on my list. I just have 15 of them working on a sweater right now. And I haven't finished, so it's going to be a couple weeks, but I've got to knit up these fingerless mitts in both lengths. And so I was writing the pattern. At the beginning of every one of my patterns, I have a little quote, and I try to give a little information about the inspiration or whatever. And so I was Googling pinky swear quotes, because I wanted a quote from someone who talked about making a pinky swear with someone, and I found a couple of cute quotes. And then I found out that there's a pinky swear foundation. And we have a chapter here in Edina, Minnesota. And the Pinky Swear Foundation raises money for children who have cancer. And they literally give money to the families for travel and food and expenses. And I was like, well, you cannot name your pattern the Pinky Swear Mitts and not give the money to the Pinky Swear Foundation, right? I had never heard of it. It just came up when I did this Google search, and then it was in Edina, and they had a Facebook page, and that's not that far from me, and I thought, childhood cancer. So I'm going to be working, I have to contact Miss Babs and ask them if they're okay with me donating. I think it'll be fine, but so yeah, I think that these are coming along. They just have a little bit of trim at the top, and then they just have a few textured stitches with these little, what are called bow knots going down around. It's just a textured stitch. So yeah, that's what I'm working on designing right now. Hey, what have I been watching? So much stuff. So we have this puppy who had a little diarrhea issue, and so I'm taking him out very late at night, and then Ross gets up at 5. So we're trying to negate having messes, overnight messes. So I finished watching the Tour de France on Peacock. It was wonderful. I kind of wanted Tade to win. I was okay with Jonas winning, but kind of like Tade. Kind of wanted him to go every other year. But he had a terrible day in the mountains one day and lost like 7 minutes. And he you know, he's a young guy. He's under 25. He's one of the younger riders on the tour. And he had a really bad day in the mountains. And he said it was the worst day ever on the bike. And can you imagine the pressure that is on this kid that's 24 years old, that he's expected to win? I mean, he won 2 years ago, then Jonas won, and now he's expected to win and ride for the team. And yeah, and to have just a really bad day. His legs weren't there. He couldn't keep up. He couldn't, and 7 minutes was just way too much to make up. So I finished watching that. And then I started watching the females, the women. It's called the Femmes. And they ride for 8 days. And that has finished up now, but I have it taped so I can watch the tour for the women. And if you haven't watched, you need to watch the tour, because you will never see France in a better light. It's so beautiful. They have helicopters everywhere and drones, and so you see all of it, the castles and the cathedrals and the rivers and the mountains from overhead. And even if you went there, you wouldn't see it in all that beauty. Then I'm watching Alone. Alone is back, season 10 on Amazon Prime. You can find it other places too, but it comes out on the History Channel every week, and I was behind because I didn't know it had started, so I missed it, so then I had to buy it, just fine. But I love that. Then Ross and I watched Quarterback on Netflix. Really good. If you are at all interested, or anyone in your household is interested in quarterbacks, football of any kind, they follow 3 quarterbacks for the 2022 season. They just did so happen to be following Kirk Cousins, who is the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. They also followed Mariota, and then they followed Patrick Mahomes. And it is fascinating. The background information that you get about what these quarterbacks have to go through, about the plays and the memorization every week, and how the plays change every week, and the hits that they take, and the recovery that they have to go through, and the ice baths, and the massage, and the taping, and the padding, and the brain stuff. And it gives this really amazing, and all 3 of those quarterbacks have children, and they're trying to be good fathers. And I don't know if they did that on purpose to kind of pick guys who, have like some values and morals about their work and what they're involved in. I know they make millions and millions of dollars, but most of us would not take millions and millions of dollars to go get hit like that. It's incredible. And they kind of switch back and forth between them and talk about the similarities and the differences. And it is about football, but it's really about their careers and what they have to do, and all the extras that they have to put in. And, they have to be members of the community, and they have to go out and sign autographs, and it just gave a completely different perspective. It was really good. I highly recommend it. Then I finished watching Judy Blume, which I think I talked about last time, but that was a good little movie documentary about her. I did a couple more episodes of Mustard Dogs in Australia, which I also talked about. Then I watched Alone Frozen, which came out in 2022, and I had missed it. I didn't even know that it was there. So they dropped 6 participants up near Newfoundland, or over on the east coast of northern Canada. Where were they? I can't remember. Anyway, and they dropped them later in the year, and so they're going to get frozen right away. And if they make it 50 days, they'll make a share of $500,000. And so you follow these 6 people in the frozen wasteland, and that was good. I watched Ed Sheeran documentary on Disney. Very good. That was multiple episodes. I'm not a huge Ed Sheeran fan. Like, I'm not a huge music knowledge person. Like, I like some songs and others, but like I'm not all in on like Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran. Like, would I go to their concert? For sure, but I don't know. And so I watched, someone had told me that was really good, and it was really good. It was about his wife and his 2 children they try to keep out of the spotlight completely, and how he's on the road, and he, wants to be a good father, and how hard it is to be gone, just like these quarterbacks. Like, yeah, that was very good. And then last night I started a show called Tiny Beautiful Things. It's by Cheryl Strayed, the book by Cheryl Strayed. They made it into a series with multiple episodes, and the main character's just really messed up. Her mom died when she was younger of cancer, and she just starts making some really poor choices as a young woman, and then that just continues to like perpetuate itself. She gets pregnant and married, and then pregnant again, or then divorced and remarried, and she's drinking and just not taking care of herself, and her marriage is not going well, and it's kind of about her struggles, and she gets fired from her job for making poor choices, and her husband and daughter kind of kick her out of the house because she's just can't get her act together. So yeah, I would say it's pretty good so far. And then I watched Amber's podcast, which, if you haven't heard, Amber is back, the Yarn Hoarder podcast, and she had another episode out. She was doing 1 a month. She's trying to take care of her mental health and not go too overboard and not deal with people's opinions online. And so she had so many followers that she was getting lots of people being rude. And so she's doing it via Patreon. So you have to pay $1 a month to watch her. And if you make a negative comment, she will block you and you won't be able to watch anymore. But then she's donating 50% of all the money that she makes to different charities every month. So she's going to be giving away some prizes and things. So she's going to use some of that money for shipping. But she's not trying to make money on it. She's just trying to control her audience so that people just can't come in and make really negative, nasty comments. I don't know how the Grocery Girls do it with their, huge number of followers. And I haven't heard that the Needles at the Ready guys have had a lot of that, but they have a huge following too. And I know the bigger your following get, the more crazy, rude, mean people you can get. So, but yes, Amber's out there. She has a 2-hour podcast. So you can go watch that on Patreon by just paying $1. Things I saw on the internet. So I have a couple of patterns I thought I would share today. The first one is called the Fletching Socks. This is by Jessica McDonald. They came out in July of this month, and they're super cute. It's just like a little band of kind of flowers. And she did a fletching sweater first. And then she decided that she had leftover yarn, so she would make socks to match. So they both have the same kind of motif on them. It's just a little bit of stranded color work. The socks are top down, or cuff down, stranded. They come in multiple sizes: adult, baby, teen, and toddler. It's a heel flap and gusset type of socks. She has measurements for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different foot circumferences. Sweater, again, is kind of a match. It has 4 bands of these kind of simple color work wrap around the yoke. The repeats are easily memorized and the floats are short. It'd be perfect for a new color work knitter. This came out in January of 2023, so earlier this year. It is sport weight yarn on a US 5. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like 12 sizes, 32 to 66. She used Woolens yarn by Barrett Wool. And I think Barrett Wool had kits for these for the socks this week, and that's where I saw it. But really, really a pretty little design and something kind of new. So I thought, I'll share that with all of you. The fletching socks do have kits at Barrett Wool. The kits are $36 and you get the skeins of yarn to make those fletching socks. So you could go over to Barrett Wool and spend a little money on that kit. And then when I was in Sioux Falls at Prairie Road Yarn, there was a woman in there knitting on a shawl and she showed it to me and it was so pretty. It was called Octave. And it was like garter stitch across. You're working this way with a little bit of lace on the end. So you go across, little lace, across, back, little lace, you know, and it works up in kind of color changing yarn, like not self-striping, but long color changes. This came out in June of 2021. Apparently a ton of people in the shop have been making them. I sent it to the beginner, adult, advanced beginner, the library knitting group. Let's not call them beginners anymore. I sent it to them and said, hey, here's a shawl that looks pretty easy. She said it was not difficult to do. It's fingering weight, but you could certainly make it in sport or DK. It would just turn out bigger. And one of the gals cast it on already and had gotten pretty far. So Laurie was well into it. It looked really pretty. She's a pretty advanced knitter already. She does a really nice job. Laurie, I think you were a crocheter first. But it's the perfect pattern to use for that one special skein of fingering or sock yarn you've been saving for just the right project. So it takes 400 to 700 yards. Size is easily available, yardage. Yeah, you can just use your scale to make sure you don't run out. It's just a real pretty shawl, kind of crescent shaped shawl with eyelets, and it's $5.50. So I wrote those down and thought I would share that with all of you this week. And I don't know how I saw this week, but there is a website out on the internet. If you have a dog that needs a place to play, you can rent a space from someone with a fenced backyard or a swimming pool or a big lot. Did you know that? Sniffspot.com. And you put in your zip code and then it will show you places that will let you come and your dog can play in their space for like $10 and $20, different places. Because Chevy's not trained to our invisible fence yet, and so he can't have free rein in our backyard because we don't have a fenced backyard. So we have to put him out on the long lead or walk him around the yard, and he would just love to run. Just run and play back there, and we just don't have him. It's just not available to us yet, so I was shocked to find this place, Sniff Spot. And then on Instagram this week, you know how you get stuff that comes to your feed that just kind of stops you in your tracks? This is called the Old Man Balance. And this is my challenge to all of you to try this week and forever after. You put your shoe and your sock on the floor, and then you stand on one leg. You pick up your shoe and your sock while standing on one leg. Cross your leg over, put your sock and put your shoe on. Put that foot down, lift up your other leg, pick up your shoe and your sock off the floor, stand up and put them on one foot. And apparently that activity, long term, if you can do that into your later years, can completely help you with balance, focus, control, and not having falls. And I was like, I don't think I could do that with my bad knees. but I could try. I'll start with the shoes, right? Let me see. Can I just bend down on one leg and pick up a shoe off the floor? Well, I could do it okay on one side, but not on the other. And I thought, that is something that is easy to work on every day. Like if I'm in the closet, I'm getting dressed, or I'm at the back door, could I just figure out how to bend down enough to grab the shoe off the ground? Or if I can't get it off the ground because I can't do that, could I just stand on one foot while I put it on? Like, could I just work my way up? So I thought, I'm going to share that with everyone because that is a really good exercise for balance and control and concentration and just maintaining, you know, yeah, I just think it would be really good. So it's called the Old Man Balance. It was an Instagram reel. I will put the link in the show notes so you can click on it and see how you actually do it. I have a little tip or trick this week. It comes from Romy Hill of Romy Hill Designs, who's a huge shawl designer. And she had an Instagram post on how to rip back mohair. And it was really well done. And so I thought I'm going to put her little post in here. I will also link it in the show notes if you want to go over and save it on Instagram so that you have it for the future about how to rip back mohair. Then you would have it because it was a really, really good little tip. Special notes and things I have to tell you. So I asked you all to subscribe to the podcast because I need 7 more people to get to 5,000. So some people subscribed, but then of course some people unsubscribed. But you cannot subscribe on your TV, and that's part of the problem. You have a lot of people watching who aren't subscribed to your podcast, and so your numbers don't go up because they're watching on their TV. So if you would just take a moment, if you watch on your TV and go to your iPad or your computer or your phone and put the YouTube app on quickly, just download it, click subscribe, and then you can delete it off. But I would be forever grateful if I could get just those 7 more people to subscribe to the podcast. Okay, something else I have to tell you. Cheryl, Choco Cat Mom on Instagram, who is a friend of me and some of my knitting friends. I have been to several knitting events with her. She's from Virginia. She's an ophthalmologist, and she is taking a mission trip to Africa. And she has to raise some funds to go over there. And so she's doing a D-stash on Instagram. So I said to Cheryl, can I just send you a little PayPal? And she said, sure. So she gave me her PayPal, which is cknits@aol.com. And you can go to her D-stash page on Instagram, ChocoCatMom_D-stash, and buy some skeins of yarn and help support her mission trip where she's going to go over and help fix some vision for some people in Africa, which I think is amazing, right? Yeah. So she's got to come up with money for a trip. So I thought, okay, I can share that. And then our friend of the podcast, Chris, who's been going through some tough times, and I had shared with you that he had had part of his leg amputated. Chris had infection after his surgery, and they had to amputate more of his leg. And he had lost his job, and so he doesn't have insurance to pay for a new prosthetic leg. So he has a GoFundMe going on, and he needs quite a bit of money. So if anybody, like, $2, $3, $4, $5 can go over to Christopher Osborne on the GoFundMe to help him try to purchase a new prosthetic leg because he can't get one because he doesn't have insurance because they had to take more of his leg. I wish you the best on that, Chris. And then there's going to be a new knitting group started in Chaska, Minnesota, which, so if you are a Southwest suburbs, Minneapolis suburbs person, on August 5th, this Saturday, at the Red Bench Baggery from 1 to 3. Catherine Kate is starting a little Saturday, every other Saturday knitting group. And so I thought, well, I can just share that here. I know that there's some people from Minnesota who watch, and Catherine has never had a knitting group. She doesn't know anyone who knits, but she can't come to like some of the groups I have because they're during the day. And so the ones that she knows about are not times when she can attend. So she's going to start her own. And the Red Bench Bakery is a nice little bakery in Chaska. So if you are available on Saturday from 1 to 3, you might want to go down to that. And if you want to reach out to me and I can give you some more information about Catherine, or you can get in touch with her, that would be great. Okay, I have a thought of the week this week. Here's something I heard the other day. Do you do the right thing because it might be seen or rewarded? Or do you do the right thing just because it is right? Ooh, that was a good one, right? And this goes back to that grocery cart theory, right? Do you put your grocery cart back if no one's watching? Yes, you always put it back? Or only if someone's watching you do you go put it back, right? Like that's something we should all do, right? We know that we should do it. It's a good thing to do. Put the grocery cart back in the corral. And how many times do you go to the grocery store and the grocery carts are all over the parking lot, right? So the kids have to run around the parking lot. And I know some people will say, well, that's their job to go pick up those carts. No, it's just the right thing to do, right? Do we do the right thing to do in the moment just because it's the right thing to do? Little food for thought there. All right, I have 4 audiobooks this week. The first one is the third in the series by Linwood Barclay. A couple of you chimed in that you had not heard of Linwood Barclay and you started listening and you're loving it. So this one is called The 23, and it was a continuation of the first. So it's kind of a trilogy, although they could be standalones, kind of a murder mystery, but then it involves more people in town, and then something else happens in the next book that involves more people in town. Really good. I really liked all 3. I couldn't wait to get, to the next book once I finished one. So I would recommend that. Then I read Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Boulay. And that is a Native American story about a girl who lives in Michigan, and she is kind of struggling to learn about her heritage. Her name is Perry, and she was ready for her summer of slack, but instead, after a fender bender that was entirely not her fault, she's stuck working to pay back her Aunt Dennis for repairs to the Jeep. Thankfully, she has the other outcasts of the summer program, Team Misfit Toys, and even her twin sister Pauline. Together they ace obstacle courses, plan vigils for missing women in the community, and make sure summer doesn't feel so lost after all. But when she attends a meeting at a local university, Perry learns about the Warrior Girl, an ancestor whose bones and knife are stored in the museum archives, and everything changes. Perry has to return Warrior Girl to her tribe. Determined to help, she learns all she can about NAGPRA, the federal law that allows tribes to request the return of ancestral remains and sacred items. This is a really wonderful story where you learn about some of the horrific things that have been done to the Native Americans, like we have kept many of their ancestors and not given them back. And they would like to have them back so that they can bury them, and we have them on display in different places, and we have a lot of their totems and different things that are of high value and importance to them, and there are collectors of those things, and But the story is about this young girl learning about that program and trying to do something to prevent it, and kind of the trouble that they can get into while they try to do that. But very good. And then I read, Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? And some of you have read books where there are African-American women and men who are passing for white back in the day. And that is kind of the basis of this story. A woman decides to move to Los Angeles and try to pass so that she can not be, you know, the whole racism thing. When Kitty Carr Tate, a white icon of the silver screen, dies and bequeaths her multi-million-dollar estate to the St. John sisters, 3 young, wealthy Black women, it prompts questions, lots of questions. So she leaves all this money, and then people don't understand why, because she was this actress that had been passing. So very interesting kind of generational story. They go back and tell what happened in the past and then bring it forward. And then the last one I read is called The 100 Years of Lenny and Margot by Marianne Cronin. 17-year-old Lenny Peterson lives on the terminal ward at the Glasgow Princess Royal Hospital. Though the teenager has been told she's dying, she still has plenty of living to do. Joining the hospital's arts and crafts class, she meets the magnificent Margot, an 83-year-old purple pajama-wearing, fruitcake-eating rebel who transforms Lenny in ways she never imagined. As their friendship blooms, a world of stories opens for these unlikely companions who between them have been alive for 100 years. It is charming. It's sad because Lenny is on a terminal ward, but it's all about her experiences and her life and her meeting Margot and Margot telling her the story of her 83 years, and Margot is a character. So it was a lovely, lovely book. I just finished it today. I couldn't understand the 100 years thing, and then they added their ages together, and then there's a whole project that happens, and yeah, very good. Very, very good. Okay, I have a winner for the purple bag of yarn here. So this is for the Regret, and the winner is Mandy Vaughn. So Mandy, you're getting that giant bag of purple yarn. Some of you have no regrets, which I think is great. Some of you have little regrets, which is fine. But a lot of you had regrets about wishing you had chosen a different career or gone with your heart for your career. And some of you had regrets about not traveling more and like taking advantage of traveling and going different places. So I asked my husband kind of if he has regrets or what he wants to do in the future. And so next week's prompt is, what's on your bucket list? And I asked Ross in the car, I said, what's something that you really want to do? And he's told me before, and why I didn't remember this, I did not remember, but he said he really wants to go to a professional driving school, and he wants to drive his old Corvette on a track and see how fast it can go and how well he could drive it. And I kind of knew that, and I had kind of forgotten, and he needs to go do that. So I'm going to try to push for him to do that. Back in the day, I had a couple of wishes, and one of them was to ride in a limousine. I'd never ridden in a limousine. That was on my bucket list. When we went to New York City, we were at a play with another couple and the kids, and when we came out, the taxis were everywhere. They're trying to, and then there was a guy with a limo, and Ross is like, this is your chance, right? We're gonna go 2 miles. We'll take the limo. So I got to ride in a limo. So that was one of my bucket list items. But on my bucket list is to travel to Iceland, to Shetland, and to Italy. And then on my list, my bucket list item for many years, I'm going to say 9 years, was to start a podcast. And I am so thankful that I did. It took a lot of nerve, a lot of guts. I'm really glad that I just got out there and decided to finally do it, because it has been a joyous thing for me, coming up on 5 years here. And yeah, really excited to kind of do that. It was something that I really, really had on a bucket list for many, many years. Okay, I do have a couple of classes coming up. I am going to teach my Ravelry class virtually, and the date has been set. It is Wednesday, August 23rd from 5 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you want to take my Ravelry class, which you all should because it's a good class, just ask Bonnie, who didn't really know if she needed to take it, and then she said, oh yeah. It will be on Zoom because it's entirely screen shared, and you will need to be able to watch it on your computer and then look at Ravelry or take notes on an iPad or a phone, or kind of be able to look up your own stuff occasionally, or have me up on Zoom on your computer and then be able to look at your computer screen at the same time. So you can kind of see your stuff on Ravelry while you're listening to me talk. And I will be screen sharing the whole time. And I've taught it that way before, and it works very well. So you will sign up for that class through Be Woolen in Minnesota. Tuesdays, they put the signups out. So it came out on Tuesday, and you fill out a form online, I think, and you sign up for it, you pay online, and then the Zoom link will come to you. You will get a packet in the email that you'll have to print ahead of time so that you can follow along on the handout, but that will be happening then. Then I'm teaching Fixing Mistakes for the last time this summer on August 18th in Stillwater at Darn It Anyway. So if you're local and you've been wanting to take that Fixing Mistakes class, I will be teaching that there. Okay, go ahead and put your bucket list item down below. I don't know what the prize is. I can't remember. We're gonna go to the movie. I need to close this down. I'll figure it out. I think it's yarn. It should be on the table. It's not. It's probably in the office. I probably set it down somewhere. I think it's 2 skeins of yarn. The winner from last time has not gotten back to me. I will put that in here, so I can't remember who it was. But we're going to take off. So come in for your hug. It was really good to meet with all of you today. I should show you my t-shirt quick. Underneath, I got a new t-shirt, and it says, I read banned books. As a former high school English teacher and lover of literature, I don't believe that books should be banned. And when I saw this t-shirt, and this is embroidered on the front, I got it on Etsy. I'll put the link to the shop in the show notes and where I got it. And she had all colors. You can pick any color you want. And I put that on the mannequin this week. And then I forgot to show it because I put the Gaptastic Cowl over it. All right, until next time, keep it colorful, keep your fork. Love you all. Bye. See you in 2 weeks.